Right then, let's talk about Andre Onana.
We want plays out and we want plays out. We want plays out and we want plays out.
De Gea, please come back, please, is what a certain section of the fan base are pleading after United concede another goal from an Onana mistake. Well, it was from a catalogue of mistakes, but we concede another goal through an error. There's a lot of question marks now on Onana, his shot-stopping ability, his distribution, other kind of assets of his game, and they are warranted, they are valid, and we need to speak about it. So let's talk about Onana. Can he turn it around? What's going on with his situation? We'll take a look at his style as well, in terms of his unorthodox style, and many, many other things. So let's dive into it together. So let's cast our minds back to the 26th minute against Brentford on the weekend. And the goal in itself is a catalogue of mistakes. Casemiro loses it. Lindelof fails to clear his lines. Eventually, Jensen gets a shot off. Onana struggles with it. It's a routine save. It creeps underneath him, and they score. And that's 4, 5, 6 mistakes he's made so far. People are getting frustrated with him, and it's not the only variation. You know, he's had a mistake from distribution, from shot stopping, not failing to claim a cross in certain situations. So, rightfully so, there are question marks around Andre Onana and if he is the right guy for Manchester United at the moment, and that's exactly what I want to talk about. Now, I want to discuss initially why we first brought Andre Onana in. Now, with David De Gea, we all remember it was clear he could not play out from the back. He pulled off some amazing saves, but last season it failed to deceive. There was errors against West Ham, there was errors against Sevilla, there was errors against Everton, and there was other ones as well that people don't even speak about. His performance in the FA Cup final was kind of the last straw for Eric Ten Hag, so there was a change that needed to be made. I think the general consensus agreed with that, especially if you're trying to play a certain style of football. Now, Onana, obviously at the time when we bought him, was recently regarded as one of Europe's top goalkeepers. During his time in Milan, he had an incredibly successful campaign in the Champions League, was the best goalkeeper, and even when you take his look at the metrics from the league, from the Champions League, sorry, he conceded only 36 goals in 41 games and kept 19 clean sheets. Then you take it as a comparison, right? So you want to David De Gea, Andre Onana, and who was better at what? When you look at the stats, in terms of build-up play, Onana averaged 27.1 passes in his own half compared to David De Gea's 17.1. He was also more accurate with his passing with a 79.17% completion rate against David De Gea's 68.33%. And for all the people who are asking, what about shot-stopping ability? What about this? What about that? Stop being biased. Stop doing this. Whatever you want to say, right? For all them people who are asking them sort of questions, Onana had a better save percentage than David De Gea. You had 72%. De Gea had 70%. But in fairness, De Gea did face quite a few more shots. So then that's kind of a debate that you need to have. Even when you compare Andre Onana to the best goalkeepers in the league right now, your Alissons and your Edisons, he had a better save percentage than both of them and faced a similar amount of shots. His passing wasn't quite as accurate. I think Alisson had 83% and Edison had 84%, but he did show a greater tendency to play the ball forward more, 17.8 times per 90 minutes compared to the 14.8 and the 13.9 respectively. A trait that should have suited United very well, but hasn't quite worked out like that yet. So, I'm going to take the old gloves off for this because we need to analyse Onana's recent errors. Obviously, his start to life at Manchester United has been far from ideal. If we take a look at some of his costly mistakes in recent matches, including games against Galatasaray, Bayern Munich, Nottingham Forest, even a certain occasion Wolves, where it was a shaky moment, went to VAR, probably should have got a penalty for it, but didn't happen. Very lucky in that. The Nottingham Forest one, a 1 year on the counter-attack. He gets to the 18-yard box. Onana kind of tries to predict it early, falls on his back, and then Awoniyi just rolls it into the goal. We then have, like I said, the Champions League game where, you know, he really impressed in his competition last season. And we had a game against Bayern Munich, our first game away, tough, the toughest one of the group, basically, away at the Allianz. Bit of a tight fixture. You're waiting for an opening. Leroy Sané gets that opening, edge of the 18-yard box, drills a shot in, which Onana should have comfortably saved, by the way, and it crawls underneath him, which leads to more question marks and more scrutiny and more criticism. Galatasaray comes around the corner. Home fixture. We need to get this win. So important. Let's start off really, really well. You know, it was a bit of back and forth game. Again, defence was a little bit leaky. It was a very open fixture. But then Onana does something huge. He tries to play out from the back, plays an awful pass straight to their attacker. Casemiro's running back, last-ditch tackle, gets himself sent off. They get a penalty, which they do miss, to be fair, but it was Icardi, he was used to it. But that cost us the game. Again, ultimately, a massive game in the Champions League, which we were happy to be back in after the season of Europa League. So he's managed to make a mess quite a few times at the moment. And I think there is a reason for this in terms of his diving technique. It is unorthodox, and I'm going to talk about that. But I want to speak about the defence first. Like I said, it's not just Onana who's the red flag in this defence. It's the 5 defenders who are responsible for keeping the ball out of the net. And I just want to explore the team's overall performance and their the defence's overall performance and their struggles to establish a solid defensive identity. First and foremost, it never helps with the amount of changes we've had at the centre-back partnership. So far, we've had 6 different centre-back partnerships, okay? We've had Varane and Lissandro, Lindelof and Lissandro, Lindelof and Evans, Maguire and Varane, Lindelof and Varane, and then Evans and Maguire in all different games, in all competitions. Not to mention all the changes you've had at wing-back as well. So no Luke Shaw, no Malacia, Wan-Bissaka's out. So Dalot's had to move to the left sometimes. You've had Lindelof playing at left-back. You've had Amrabat playing at left-back. You've had the new signing Reguilon playing at left-back. No consistency at all. And when you're a goalkeeper who relies on that first phase build-up and you're trying to implement a certain style and you've got no Lisandro Martinez, no Luke Shaw in that back line, it's going to make it extremely difficult. Not to mention the goals that we've conceded so far. 19 goals so far this season. Onana was at fault for some of them, granted, absolutely. But some of them we've conceded is just down to basic defending, not tracking your man and switching off and making errors even from the back line. Like the Brentford goal, for example, just not making it easy at all. So the responsibility, in my eyes, as much as people want to blame Onana, spreads across the whole back 5 because they've all made mistakes in their own right, and we need to clear these cobwebs that still exist in this team because it's going to be a long season. We've got big games coming up in the Champions League that we need to win, and we've got games against Man City at the Etihad and Liverpool at Anfield. Now, for this little segment, I want to bring it back to Onana slightly. The big question for me is at the moment, what's causing these issues? What is the root of the problem? Is it a crisis of confidence, or could there be some kind of underlying technical flaws in Onana's game? Because when you talk about confidence, I think he certainly seems to have the personality to deal with it. You look at, after he made a mistake against Bayern Munich, the interview that he gave after the game, he was like, look, this is on me. I take full responsibility for this. Not good enough. I will sort it out. And we'll see in the next game. Obviously, that didn't happen. So your words kind of don't only mean so much after that. But the fact is, we never saw De Gea do that, come out in interviews and say, look, this is on me. I take responsibility. He showed character, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes this kind of arrogance or confidence can go a little bit too far. I know there was a situation with Cameroon in the World Cup where he was questioning certain tactics and the manager wasn't happy, sent him home. So obviously there's a debate there to be happening where sometimes he can overstep his mark. I do think he needs to settle back 4 in front of him, like I mentioned before. If you look at his time at Inter Milan, he had basically a settled back 5 in front of him. He had Bastoni, who was amazing on the ball. At Ajax, he had Daley Blind in front of him. He had Mazraoui, Lissandro as well, equally. So he always had a settled defence in front of him, and 99% of the time, they always had possession. So it obviously favours into him. With us at the minute trying to implement this new style, it doesn't seem to be working because of how many chopping and changes we've made. So that is another case for it. Now, I mentioned before, I wanted to talk about Onana's kind of unorthodox diving technique. And I think The Athletic did a really, really good article from this, which I've taken some kind of inspiration from and took details from because it was very specific and I thought it was absolutely bang on. Now, apparently Ajax Sporting Science and the analytics department tried to solve this situation when Onana was at Ajax. They looked at his technique, looked at a load of other things and basically wanted to change it. And Onana was absolutely adamant that by doing this specific technique, which I'm going to talk about in a second, he could get to the ball much quicker and his reactions were much better. Rather than kind of standing more upright and with his legs roughly shoulder width apart, Onana's base was slightly wider than normal, both with his feet and arms. I think Nick Pope implements a similar technique. The wider base gives him more power and stability when attacking the ball, and when the reaction time was limited, he was able to dig his feet into the ground and shoot his hands down to the ball to make the save. The technique in itself requires precise timing and a great amount of strength to execute correctly, which he's never had an issue with before in the other leagues when he's been doing it. Whoever it's with, Cameroon, Inter, Ajax, even the academy days, he executed it relatively well. And when it's done well, it can result in goalkeepers quickly shooting their limbs down to the ball to make the save. However, on the other side, when it's executed incorrectly, it can make you look really stupid. And we've seen that a good few times now. The sporting science department at Ajax was basically telling Onana, you're doing it wrong, this ain't right, change your technique, blah, blah, blah. And they decided to wire him up to see if this was the case. They actually found that he was the one. Onana was right, basically, with this. And with his style, you could get down to the ball much quicker. So it's not as if he's just, randomly saying it's nah, I prefer it like this. It is what it is. There's actual evidence and metrics to prove it. And when implementing this technique with the academy keepers and other keepers at Ajax at the time, they found out the results were almost immediate. All became faster at reacting to the ball. So there's proof there that it works. And Onana, at his very best, executes this technique incredibly well. There's so much footage you can go out there and watch. But holes have started to appear at his time at Manchester United for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's over-trying or if he's overdoing it. We don't know what the specifics are. If this keeps happening, we're in a results business. The attention at Manchester United is absolutely massive. It's only going to get worse. And you get to a point where you just can't play without United fans saying, we want a change. We want someone else in the sticks. I'm willing to be patient, but it's everybody else. The big question on everybody's lips right now is, can he regain the form that he's shown at Inter Milan and Ajax? Is the lights under Old Trafford too much pressure? Because we have seen it swallow keepers up before. But if you look at Onana, just in general, what you want from a goalkeeper, distribution, fantastic. Shot stopping before United, amazing. He's got strength, explosiveness, agility. He looks the part. The thing is, when he joined United, he was kind of hailed as just this playmaker who's just good with his feet. And you had Richard Keys and Andy Gray saying, well, I want a goalkeeper who's good with his hands. What about that anymore? And making a lot of nonsense out of it. But look, the coach backs him. He knows what he's capable of. And he still believes he could become one of the very best in the world. And to succeed, Onana, for me, needs to simplify his approach, focus on the basics, and let the game come to him. I feel like he's trying too much. Turning things around at United is obviously going to be a very, very difficult task, but I think with his talent and what I can see him doing, I can see him being United's number one, but he needs to clear these cobwebs out of his game. He needs to do it. And let's be honest, he isn't the first goalkeeper to struggle to adapt to life at Manchester United before. De Gea had it in his early days. Barthez had it. There's been loads of goalkeepers who have struggled. So let's not pretend he's the only one. In conclusion, Onana's journey at Manchester United has had its ups and it's had its downs. People are always going to remember the negatives and the errors, but I've seen him make some really, really good saves. So I know the shot-stopping ability is there and he can do it. Whether he can overcome his struggles at the moment and become one of the world's best keepers is remain to be seen. But I still have faith, and hopefully the fan base does, because he's going to need it. He's going to need the backing from the fans. But yeah, let's see how it develops. If you guys have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more football analysis like this. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next one.